So, Kuhu, let's begin by introducing yourself. Please go ahead and tell me what has been your educational background and what have you done so far.
Ma'am, I completed my BA Honors in Economics from Jesus and Mary College of Delhi University. After that, I pursued the MSc in Economics at London School of Economics. And after completing my MSc, I briefly interned in the corporate sector.
Okay.
And after a few months, I left that to pursue research roles. And during that time, I also volunteered as a Korean English translator, side by side, preparing for the competitive exams.
Got it. So, what made you bring interest in the Korean language? Was it something you were taught at the school level?
Ma'am, we were not taught at the school level per se, but I just came across songs and shows, and I got interested in the culture itself. So I thought it may be fun to see if I can learn it. Then I ended up learning it to a good extent.
Okay. Have you ever tried reading some Korean economics papers?
Oh, no, ma'am. I've not been able to access, printed books and other material in Korean in India. But if the opportunity arises, I would love to try that also.
Got it. So, what made you go ahead and do your master's from London School of Economics? Why not choose an institute from India?
Ma'am, at that time, when I was planning to do my master's, I was very interested in development economics. So my thinking behind pursuing my master's abroad was I want to get the best technical knowledge from wherever, like whatever best place I can reach, and then bring it back here and use it here. So that was my thinking. And if I had not been able to get through, then I would have obviously pursued it here itself because doing masters was always part of the plan.
So, was your master's program completely towards development economics?
No, ma'am, it was MSc Economics, and my optional paper was Development Economics.
Okay, but that is something that you can also get in India.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What I was trying to say is that I just wanted to see what is the top institute that I can reach to, and then go there, get the technical knowledge, and bring it back.
Okay. So, because you mentioned about development economics, do you think that is something which can be used intensively in the banking sector, especially in RBI?
Ma'am, it doesn't play a central role as such, but there are some aspects of the banking sector and some initiatives taken by RBI which are contributing to development. For example, the priority sector lending guidelines. They are primarily to direct credit towards the sectors that find it difficult to get credit. So that is sort of a developmental initiative by RBI.
Okay. Are you aware about the kind of work that we do at RBI, and what exactly are you interested to do at RBI?
Yes, ma'am. So RBI, as the monetary policy authority, the issuer of currency, the regulator and supervisor of the banking sector, it has a very wide-ranging ambit of uh, functions. But specifically, the Department of Economics and Policy Research, that it becomes the key think tank of RBI as it performs key economic research that goes as input into the policy making decisions.
Okay. And what exactly would you be interested in doing there? There are a lot of opportunities at DEPR. So what do you want to pursue there per se?
Ma'am, over the years, my interest has sort of moved towards financial inclusion. So that area interests me in particular right now.
Okay. Since you mentioned about financial inclusion, are you aware about any policies that have been taken in India related to financial inclusion?
Yes, ma'am. The first one that comes to mind is the Jan Dhan scheme, which enabled a large part of the population which previously did not have access to banking facilities. They were allowed to open no minimum balance bank accounts. So it brought them into the fore of the financial sector and the banking sector.
Okay.
And then linked with Aadhaar and mobile, it also helped them receive the benefits of government schemes. Other than that, uh, not recently, but there have also been initiatives for payment banks, small finance banks, which target the areas and populations that have limited or no access. to financial facilities.
Okay. Do you think these payment banks and the coming up of UPI increases financial inclusion, or does it actually lower the financial inclusion because the rural area does not really have access to internet?
Ma'am, it depends actually. For payment banks, small finance banks, those are specifically targeted to bring the rural areas into the financial sector. So over there, I think that would help. But UPI, etc., it depends on the level of access that people have. But since the penetration of mobile and internet services has increased a lot, I think many people have been brought into the fore by UPI, and it has also helped MSMEs, especially in receiving payments. So that way, I think it can be contributing to an improvement over time. As more and more people get access to these services, it will definitely improve the inclusion.
Okay. Do you think it should be one of the key aspects that government should be focusing on, given that we are yet to bring electricity and infrastructure to the rural area? Should financial inclusion be one of the important things?
Ma'am, I think all of them are equally important because electricity and all these other services, they are also very basic. But uh, having access to a means where people can safely deposit their money so that they don't lose their hard-earned money, hard-earned savings in, say, natural calamities, something like that. I think that is also equally important. So once areas like health, education, food, once those are covered, then I think these should be the simultaneous focus because having access to financial services also helps them not only use their savings well, sometimes it also becomes an incentive to save more by schemes such as I think SBI recently started this Har Ghar Lakpati scheme where they incentivize people to save up to these denominations. So that way it can really help them.
Okay. Recently, there was a news that a Pani Puri vendor was given a GST notice because his income exceeded 40 lakh. And that happened because he had taken the money in the form of UPI. Do you think taking money in this form and making people financially inclusive actually also kind of reduces the incentive of people to take money like this because they have to pay tax on every transaction that occurs?
Ma'am, I'm not sure I understood. They have to pay tax on every transaction through UPI,
They
or
have to pay tax once the people who were earlier collecting money through black money, through black market, through cash, because now they are getting money in their accounts that gets reflected and hence, they have to pay tax on it. So do you think people will have an incentive to take money through UPI then?
uh, ma'am, that is a good point. That will disincentivize some people, but I still think the benefits of it outweigh this part because even if the pani puri vendor, even if he was earning in cash, eventually, if his business grew to a scale, uh, the authorities would take notice and still send him a GST bill, in
How?
my opinion.
If it is everything is collected in cash, how would they ever know?
Ma'am, if they suspect, I think they can conduct searches, maybe figure out the sort of transactions that are occurring, even if he tries to not show it in his accounts or those are not properly maintained. I think the authorities would have a way of finding out. Although UPI does bring, from the authorities' side, it brings this benefit that there is a sort of transparency.
Okay. So I see from your CV that you have written a paper or co-authored a paper on poverty traps. What was that about?
Ma'am, that was my dissertation for the development economics paper in my master's. So it explores the effect of constant relative risk aversion on the existence and severity of poverty traps, and it builds upon the framework made by Dr. Maitrish Ghatak in his paper. Uh, the the basic framework that it follows is that there's a threshold level of capital before which the agent has access to a linear technology so that the wages increase in a linear function. Maybe we can visualize it as daily wages. So day by day, it increases linearly, his earning. And then after that threshold level, he gets access to the usual solo type function that we see. And so the paper explores how this, combined with lack of access to credit, can create a poverty trap for the agent, such that if he's below the threshold level, he can never cross that threshold level and access the better technology.
Okay. Are you aware about how risk aversion can be calculated generally in economics?
Ma'am, I think there is an arrow Pratt measure, but I don't recall the exact formula of it right now.
Okay. And what method have you used to calculate the risk aversion then in your paper?
Uh, Ma'am, I took the functional form of constant relative risk aversion itself with respect to bequest and consumption, so that the individual is equally risk averse to big shocks in his present consumption as well as big shocks in the bequest that he leaves to his future generations. So, considering that mindset of the agent, how he operates and how that can result in a poverty trap.
Okay. So you mentioned the word constant relative risk aversion. How is relative risk aversion different from the usual concept of risk aversion? Why the word relative?
Ma'am, in my understanding, the usual risk aversion is with respect to the convexity or concavity of the function. But for relative, I will have to look into it a little more. What makes it different from the usual measure that we look at?
Okay. So are you aware about any of the econometrics techniques?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you suggest some of those
Ma'am, for in general,
in general?
ma'am, there is OLS, there is generalized least squares, feasible generalized least squares, weighted least squares.
Okay. And are you familiar with forecasting? How forecasting can be done using these econometrics techniques?
Ma'am, I have read a little bit about it, but not too much in depth.
Okay. So, when we go ahead and when we look at the papers published by RBI and the reports published by RBI, it also goes ahead and forecasts various variables. For example, it goes ahead and forecasts what would be the inflation next year, what would be consumer price index value next year, right? What kind of analysis goes there to understand the future values of inflation?
Ma'am, in my understanding, they also look at past trends as well as the surveys and the data that they have for the present time and the near term future expectations, like the household inflation expectation survey that goes as an input, as well as the high frequency indicators. All of those can be used as inputs for their model. I think it is a quarterly projection model.
Okay.
And based on that, they do a time series forecast of it.
Okay. So, what are some of the problems that one can face in time series forecasting?
Ma'am, in my understanding, a lot of the economic variables that we look at and work with, like GDP, per capita income, all of these are non-stationary time series. So for that, we can't really apply normal OLS or sort of the techniques we are more familiar with. We have to address the non-stationarity problem, and I think that forms one of the big issues.
Okay, and how do we address the non-stationarity problem?
Ma'am, for series like GDP, I think they are stochastic trends. So for that, taking a difference can address the stationarity. Otherwise, if there's a deterministic trend, maybe for something like population, for that we can detrend it.
Okay, and when we detrend it, what are the various components that we get by detrending a time series?
Ma'am, there are four. I think one of them is cyclical, but I think this is the only one I can remember.
Okay, so any idea what are the sources of inflation in India? Sources for data of inflation in India, rather,
As in, ma'am, who publishes?
publishes it.
Ma'am, the CPI is published by CSO, and the WPI is published by the Office of the Economic Advisor.
And what's the role of NSO?
Ma'am, NSO, I think, was previously there. It has been renamed to CSO. I think they are the same organization.
Okay. So, especially after COVID, every country is interested in understanding the economic health of their country. And, we have heard this term of V-shaped recovery.
Mm.
So, how do you think we are performing overall with respect to economic health? And do you think that India has actually achieved the trend, the path that it was supposed to achieve post COVID-19?
Ma'am, based on some of the data that has been coming out recently, there are concerns about the growth again. And the some statements given by heads of FMCG companies, etc. They say that the middle class in India is not demanding. It's the premium sectors like premium cars, premium products that are receiving demand, and the lower end ones are stagnant. So based on these things, slowing automobile sales, based on all of this, I think there is some cause to worry, but the data we have seen so far has been 1 quarter. So that also, like, we should proceed with caution. Uh, and about whether we have gone back to that level, we have definitely come back from the dip that was witnessed in COVID in terms of GDP and all. But whether that path is still being continued, I'm not sure. And even before COVID, ma'am, there were concerns around 2019. There were still concerns that India may be entering a structural slowdown. Then COVID happened and the lockdowns and all happened. And once those were lifted, we witnessed the release of pent up demand. And there was also a lower base effect. So all of that contributed to good figures for us. I think now that that is wearing off, some of those concerns from 2019 may be coming back. Although this is just my opinion based on what I've read. But
Based on the current budget and survey, we see that the predicted growth rate is 6.5 to 7%, which is much more than what exists in China and US. Do you still think that India is not performing well?
ma'am, I think our current growth rates can't be compared to the growth rates of China and US today because US has already industrialized. They sort of already have a very high base on which even 2% is a good growth. And they also, I don't think they face the population dividend that we face right now. As for China, they also have their own structural problems, but they also have their population problem in terms of their aging population, as well as a cost of living crisis. There are a lot of issues going on there. So I think, although in numbers we are performing better than them, but relatively we should have been doing even better, in my opinion, because this is the time when we can capitalize on a lot of things. We can also capitalize on China plus one, but those benefits have gone to other countries like Vietnam. So I think there is a lot of potential which we can reach.
Do you think but India is doing something with respect to China plus one, since already there has been a plant established in Karnataka for Apple phone?
Yes, ma'am. It is trying to sort of bring the global supply chain to itself and establish itself in that network. But I feel many countries have these concerns about quality standards and all of that. Also, cheap labor, for which they might be going to other countries. But with continued efforts, I think we can do it.
So one last question that I have, Kuhu. So let's say that all of a sudden we find out that rupee has started depreciating a lot against the dollar. So what steps do you think RBI should take in order to keep the currency stable?
Ma'am, to keep the currency stable, first thing would be intervention using the foreign exchange reserves, which RBI has started doing in the last few months to smoothen the volatility. And other things, I think from RBI's side, that is the main thing. Other things can be done by the government to bring in FDI inflows and FPI inflows that can reduce the depreciation pressures.
Okay. But don't you think the exchange rate is predominantly under the central bank, and they must be suggesting some steps that can be taken to stabilize it?
Yes, ma'am, but I think right now nothing is coming to mind except the intervention.
Okay, okay. And what kind of interventions can the bank take?
Ma'am, if the rupee is falling, then the bank can sell its foreign exchange reserves, which
Okay.
will increase the supply of the dollar and then reduce that depreciation pressure on the rupee. It can do that in the spot market as well as the forward market. RBI has been doing both a little bit.
So it has been seen that the foreign exchange reserves of India, if we look at the budget and survey of India, has been continuously increasing. It's on an increasing trend over the last 4 years. Do you think it's a positive thing or negative thing? And why do you think so?
Ma'am, I think it's a positive thing because it gives the RBI a lot of room. For example, now that the rupee is falling a lot, since September, the reserves have been falling, but RBI could intervene only because it had that big buildup of foreign exchange reserves. If that was limited, then the RBI's hands would also somewhat be tied in this intervention. And it also helps us in terms of covering our imports, uh, servicing other payments in foreign currencies that are needed, maybe interest on foreign loans, these sort of things.
Okay, sure. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
I think the interview went well. I wish you all the luck for your exam, final exam. Thank you.
Ma'am, do you have any areas of suggestion that I should work on?
Yes. So I think you should be focusing a bit more on the international economics part. Make sure that you do the budget and survey really well. It talks about what are the key areas in which India has performed well. It talks about what happened to current account, how the deficit has decreased, what happens to the capital account. And also make sure that you go through each and every point of your CV. So for
Mm.
example, if you have written poverty traps with relative risk aversion, you have to be aware about what that is, right? So they will grill you over what your CV says and what subjects you had taken at LSE. So make sure you know each and everything in it.
Also, ma'am, about the steps that RBI can take to defend the rupee, what were the other steps you had in mind?
So, when you talk about the steps that Reserve Bank of India can take, first of all, you begin from the starting that, we cannot go ahead and we cannot do a lot because we are under floating exchange rate. We are, binded by the international organizations. But keeping that in mind, you can go ahead and you can, of course, what you talked about, you can talk about the foreign reserves. So that was the right point. Apart from that, you also need to go ahead and you also need to talk about what happens when exchange rate fluctuates, how people lose their confidence, and
Mhm.
why we need to maintain the exchange rate to be stable. So you need to make sure that you give an inclusive answer. You talk about the confidence of people, how it affects FDI if the if the rupee depreciates, and why certain steps need to be taken.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Thank
Sure.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gugu.